y'all, I just wanted to briefly talk to you about a few of the biggest takeaways that I learned after heartbreak or breakup. And the very first thing I want to do is I want to address the people that's fresh out of a breakup. Don't be afraid to feel through all of the complicated emotions that you're having right now. It's okay to cry. It's okay to be sad, mad, whatever emotion that you're having. Feel it. But more than anything, I just want to be an example to you today to let you know that it does get better. It takes time, but it gets better, okay? So hang in there. You got this. So now let's just jump right into the biggest takeaways that I've learned after heartbreak or breakup. And if you guys have any tips or advice that you'd like to share, I'd love to hear about those in the comment section. Maybe it'll help me or someone else out. And the very first tip that I learned is to be patient.
Worry, I'll wait.
So people are usually not going to be very authentic when you first get to meet them. They're going to show up with their representative, right? So they're going to look their best, they're going to dress their best, they're going to brag about themselves, whatever they do on the first date. So in knowing that, just truly make sure that you're taking your time. Just pay close attention to body language, to patterns, how they treat you, but not only you, pay attention to how they treat the people around them. Number 2, do a background check, y'all. I know that doing a background check may sound a little extreme to some people, but honestly, I went through a situation where it's really called for a story time, to be honest. And if y'all like to hear about that, just leave it in the comment section, and I'll kind of contemplate whether or not I want to tell that story or not. But anyway, just make sure that you're doing a thorough background check. That's essentially to make sure that it's keeping you and your loved ones safe. We don't want your first date to end up being your last date. In all honesty, if you don't really want to do a thorough background check, or you don't really want to spend the money on something like that, at least do a Google search. Do that bare minimum. That leads me into 3, which is honor your feelings. So if you initially feel that something is off, pay attention to that. Always remember that your feelings or your intuition is there to keep you safe. You know how some people are like, I should have followed my first mind. And I don't know if that's just like a Southern thing or if everybody says that, but it's like that initial intuition that you have, or that initial feeling that you have about a person. Pay very close attention to that voice. Is really a voice that's talking to you. You don't necessarily have to wait for someone to prove you right or to acknowledge that initial emotion that you already had. So in the 2 worst relationships I've ever had in my life, y'all, I had an inkling. The all-time worst one, I gave the person the wrong name because I wasn't going to give the person the right number. I was young, y'all, okay? So don't judge me, okay? I could have just said no, I know, but I didn't. So I gave the person the wrong name and intent to give them the wrong number, and I last minute changed my mind. I was like, well, let me just get to know the person a little bit, and then make a decision. Poor decision. Bad mistake, okay? I wish I would have made a different decision, but I didn't. Anyway, in the second worst relationship, we were acquaintances for about 5 years, and the person was, showing up consistently asking me out for 5 years, y'all, and I was not interested at all. But it's funny how the 5th year, all of a sudden I changed my mind. No, I knew from back when to run. I just didn't. I just still gave the person a chance. Feeling sorry or feeling whatever emotion was the emotion I was feeling at the time. Let's talk about the 4th tip that I have, and that's learn the characteristics of narcissism. When learning about narcissism, it can really save you a lot of time. I have a few videos that give a surface level of characteristics about narcissism, but I definitely recommend doing your own homework on learning the more in-depth characteristics of different types of narcs that are out there. And on to the 5th tip.
Woo!
So in dating situations, a lot of times you'll notice that when you're initially trying to get to know somebody, that they show interest, that they're assertive, and they're going to show up. Sometimes people kind of fall back. If somebody falls back on you, you fall back too. Know your worth. Do not chase behind anybody. If they want to fall back for a couple weeks, don't want to talk to you in a month or whatever, and then all of a sudden show up, for me personally, if somebody takes too long to really kind of engage back with me, I'm out. With any of you all who have dealt with like codependent behaviors and things like myself, and I'm not calling anybody codependent because I don't necessarily believe that I'm a codependent, but I do have some codependent characteristics, right? So when you're dealing with things like that, sometimes you don't necessarily honor your boundaries. When somebody falls back, it kind of makes you feel some kind of way. It triggers you a little bit, right? Especially when you have self-worth issues. Do not run up behind nobody, okay? If they taking forever to hit you back, just leave it. Leave it right where it is. And don't sit around waiting on them either. You know, so sometimes people will ghost you, or, you know, they want to take however many weeks or months away from contacting you or being interested in you or showing interest in you. I'm sorry. Don't sit around waiting on those people. If they decide to call you back, you don't have to answer. Ask yourself, what really happened to make them fall back like that? Honestly, your ass got to be in the hospital. Some major had to happen for you to take that much time. You ghost me, you ghosted. That's it. I'm out. Which leads me to the sixth thing. All of these things really boil down to loving yourself, knowing your self-worth. Loving yourself more than wanting to be in love, or loving yourself more than wanting a partner. And I know that that sounds easier said than done. Like, oh, if this person does all these things to me in dating, then I'm out. And we have the neck roll and we have all of these things that we want to say in the beginning. But when you're actually caught up in an actual relationship, sometimes we can make excuses for people. We can really hang on to behaviors that we know that we shouldn't tolerate or that we shouldn't accept along the way. I'm not saying don't be patient with people, but voice what your requirements are. If they cannot meet you where you need to be met, bounce on them. There are too many people out here for us to be worried about this one person and hanging on to this one toxic ass person. I know that we all have had different experiences in life, and like I said before, if you all have any major tips that can help me or anyone else out, please leave them in the comment section below. I'd really appreciate that. And until next time, bye y'all.